talking.
This is how I do it to make it easy. Athakanh. Just 3 times.
Athakanh.
That helps.
Almost like the one Mississippi too.
Yeah, there you go.
Alrighty. Okay, let me see that goes. I'm going to start officially after we also enjoyed a beautiful buffet lunch that you treated me to. So I'm here. Today is, for the record, today is June 12th, 2022, and my name is Susan Paulo, and I am going to be interviewing Victor Athahkanh, U.S. Marine Corps. I'm in his home in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, and I am going to be doing this officially doing the interview for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. So appreciate, number one, again, wonderful hospitality of in meeting your family here today and feeding me before we start this interview. So that was actually a first time honor for me, so thank you. So be sure you thank your family. So if we could begin by giving me your full name, your rank, and the branch of service you were in, and if you wouldn't mind spelling your name for me.
My name is Vilaysack Athakhanh. I go by Victor. Vilaysack, Vilaysack. Last name Athahkanh, Athakanh. United States Marine Corps, Corporal, E4.
Okay, and so just to kind of set the, you want to give your date of birth as well? Let's start that.
February 2nd, 1973.
And your place of birth?
Place of birth is in Laos.
Okay, in the capital?
Savanakhet.
Okay,
yes.
Just we'll put that in there for your family and friends who know that.
Yes.
And okay, you were in the U.S. Marine Corps, and how old were you then when you first enlisted?
I was 22 when I first enlisted in 1995. I was actually in college, Georgia State University.
Mm-hmm.
How that all came out to be was I was in college with my older brother, Tiger. So my family, my father and mother, there was 3 of us, 3 sons.
Mm-hmm.
So my older brother and I was in Georgia State University, and my younger brother was about to graduate high school.
Mm-hmm.
So the recruiter was knocking on the door asking for my younger brother at that time. So guess who opened the door? I did. And he asked me if my younger brother was home, top. And I said, no, he's not. How can I help you? And that's how the recruiting all started, because I asked him how I can help him.
So you took the recruiter kind of got a double, he was going to take advantage of whoever was there?
He took the opportunity in every way he can. That is his job, and he did it well. So as a matter of fact, he did well that he was able to get myself, my younger brother, and 2 of our good friends to do it as a buddy system.
Okay.
But to make the long story short, they didn't go. I was the only one that kind of continued the path of going through the whole system, the boot camp portion of it. But everybody have the reasons.
Yeah.
So, but I am grateful for the Marine Corps, the boot camp, the things I've gone through. It was, although it was hard, it was fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, for most Marines, it taught me a lot about life. Get to travel to many countries. Of course, did about 2 deployments, both in '96 and '98.
Okay.
Came back home safe. That's the most important thing.
It is the most important thing. You're here to tell it. Well, going back, can you tell when you went in, or when your brothers were considering it, was anybody else in your family? Were they in the military? What was at home? What was the setting, and what was it like you growing up? Your attitude with military, or what was in your family? Had you heard other people talk about service?
My father was in the Vietnam War, What I did not know was my grandfather was in World War II until afterwards.
And this was in Laos. So
This was in Laos, correct. So my father being in the Vietnam War, growing up with him, I thought for me it was normal, just like everyday normal family. My father did the best he can as far as work, come home, provide for the family, the main breadwinner. He didn't say much, talk much about his experience in the military, in the Vietnam War, I should say. But a lot of things came out afterwards as we get older. But now knowing of all the things that he gone through, of all the things that has happened, I'm more passionate as far as wanting to help get things more correct. I don't know if that's the right word to say, to help other Vietnam vets in his era to get what have to be, I guess, the right way to put it, some recognitions that what they've done in what many has known as the Secret War already. So that is part of what I want to try to help him with.
well, I know that because I interviewed your father about 2 weeks ago, so that was the first time I learned about the secret war in Laos.
Yes.
That is now a lot more is known, but it's played a role because of your father. You know,
Yes.
with things that you, even though you learned it later, but. So were you aware that at the time when you joined the Marines, were you aware of the role that the Laos, your father, and that assisted with the Vietnam War, their role contributing to helping defend against the Viet Cong?
No, not at that time. My father, like I said, never talked about his experience. He never really shared what he has gone through until afterward. All the injuries that he sustained, the training that he did with CIA. That was afterwards when I got out of the Marine Corps. That's when we have something in common, almost in a sense. I understand what and why he has not mentioned. Like I said, to you before, when I first got out of the Marine Corps, my perceptions, what it was before and now, has changed so much because of when I mentioned to you, as far as one of my guilt that I have when I got out was looking at other veterans being either homeless or alcoholic or drug addict or whatever case may be. I looked down upon them, saying that how can you put yourself into that, where you were up here, now you're down there. But knowing situation, there can be, PTSD could be like tremendous. Depression can be so bad. They had to find a different way to cope with their depression or PTSD through drugs or alcohol, whatever the case may be, to the point there was no return. So in that portion, to be where, that's when I felt so bad afterwards. Because not knowing what they've gone through, I'm thinking for me I'm fine until things happen to catch up with you. Although I want to say my short time in the Marine Corps was 4 years being short, we did so much in the 4 years, operation-wise, training-wise, and it's catching up to me as far as my body-wise. So I have never requested help with the VA because of the stories that I hear, how you have to wait up in line, you get denied, yada, yada, yada. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can suck it up, I can handle it. I'd rather have the senior Marines, one that's probably needed more help, get their help first. I don't want to take up their line. Let them do what they gotta do, I'll do what I do, and I suck it up, I handle myself. It was to the point to be where I was working at a restaurant, and I was limping because it's gotten bad. But I never thought about asking help still from the VA. I was just going to go to my regular doctors and do my own thing until a postman, a regular postman, he also happened to be a veteran, and he brought a mail to me as I limped up to him and said, "Thank you, boss," talking to him. And he says, "What's going on with you?" I said, "Back pain." And he says, "From the Corps?" I said, "Yeah." You know how it goes. And then he says, "Look, can you come out here?" But he wanted to take me out of the restaurant, pull me out to the patio. He says, "Sit down and talk with me." And I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" I said, "Look, you need to go to the VA." And I says, "No, I'm fine, I'm okay." He says, "Look, put your pride aside, or whatever the case may be that you're thinking." He says, "You served. You deserve to ask for this. It's not an ask or a give me.
It's an earn.
You've earned it."
Yeah.
Exactly. So he says, "Do me a favor," he says, "just go to the VA, fill out the forms, and just put in what's wrong with you." And that was it. That's all he asked me. I said, "Okay." For some reason, I listened to that. I said, "Okay, I'll do it." Sure enough, when I put in the form and put it in, when I went to the VA at one point in time, the lady in the front desk, when I put in my packages, she looked at me and says, "Where have you been?" And she sent all the stuff that I put up there, right there, and all the operations that I've done. And she looked at that and she called, I guess, someone from another office, the upper management. But she said, "I got a Marine here that's putting in a claim with all this operation that he did, and this is what things that he's done." So it was, to me, I felt it was quick. I want to say, because I want to say the bad stories that I hear about, our claims being denied or being prolonged. And I think I want to say back in 2012, something like that, I can't remember what year, where veterans died while waiting in line or list to get medical care. That's what I didn't want to take the line of, because I'd rather them getting support and help that's in much worse scenario than I was. But I want to say less than 2 months, my claim got approved just like that.
Good.
And I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you. I was not being, I want to say, hopeful. It was the word, or it might be the timing to be where a lot of things maybe got exposed, to be where the VA got more, I guess, tightened up with what they do, versus files being put aside. I guess maybe that's why the lady in the front just called immediately saying, "I got a Marine here putting in a claim," and she was looking at all my files. It's like, and that's, I guess, kind of proved so quickly.
Well, also having, like you said, there's the older ones that need care, but it's also from people going before them, but also younger ones coming in that, let's say you're not so serious, you maybe aren't dealing with some of the things they are, but you still have a right, and it can be helping the VA be aware. It helps service for the other ones,
Right.
But I mean, so that's, you deserve it, you earn it, that's what you've served. And also giving the VA is trying to respond, or, and that's from everybody, some people speaking up and advocating for other veterans and hoping to make it so that people don't have to suffer, or before it gets too, like you said,
Right.
you might have been able to do something earlier if you
Yes.
had, possibly. But do you mind, could we dial back to
Sure.
when you, so if you don't, when I'm trying to, because I know now that you grew to appreciate a lot of things because of your service.
Yes.
But at the time when you left, so you finished Georgia State and then you went into the Marine?
I was still in college at the time, so I was doing my 2 years.
Okay.
I had a 4-year program, of course, going to Georgia State. On my second year, finish up my second year is when the recruiter came.
Okay.
That's when I signed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then what was it like? I'm just curious then, from when you did go to boot camp, can you remember how you were feeling going into it when everything was new? And where did you go exactly for your training?
So going in, I did a little bit of research. Probably I should have done more. um, I'm not. I don't want to talk negative about other branches, but when I was doing the research as far as, let's say when I get out of college, and I had to apply for a job, if a new graduate from college going up with another graduate, you know, what will give me an edge over the other graduate college student? So what I've learned is that, you know, veterans are being preferred or favored over another graduate. So I'm like, okay, this is what at least the recruiter was telling me, and of course that makes sense to me, because you serve, you're proud, you're doing your it's the military here in the United States is all voluntary. It's not mandatory. It's what you're able to give your time and serve and do for the country. So I'm like, I want to do part of that. I know my father have for his country as well, and here I'm in the United States. I want to do it for the country I'm living in here as well. So that was a plus. So then I went a little bit further as, okay, if another veteran going for the same job, which branch would they?
Okay. You drilled into that. Okay.
I went a little bit deeper, let's just say. So I've noticed that the Marine Corps was a little bit more respected. Again, not wanting to put any other branch down, we were on the same team. But then I also look at the boot camp portion, and I was like, yeah, it is tougher. It's a little bit longer, 13 weeks versus 8 weeks or 9 weeks. So in my mind, it's like boot camp's going to be a shocker to me regardless. It's going to be hard. Maybe suffer just a little bit more to be part of the best and what I want to be.
That beeping noise.
I didn't hear any.
Oh. What?
Is it still here or gone?
Gone.
Okay.
Just stop.
So that's why I chose. Then again, I have not really researched any other branches to go in and see. But it also, my recruiter was able to give me the MOS that I was looking at, which is the 0151 administration, because I was studying business in college, which also to me kind of makes sense. So I was thinking, okay, office job, administrative, business, that was the background. It doesn't matter you're black, white, rich or poor, whatever the case may be, everybody, we got together and we make friends. Yeah, it's a brotherhood.
So where'd you go from there? When you got your MOS?
So I went to Camp Lejeune for my Marine Corps training, and then after the Marine Corps training, everybody got their duty station. I requested East Coast, of course, being close to home here in Georgia, but the Marine Corps is going to put you wherever they need you. So that's what I've learned, and my MOS was required in Camp Pendleton, California. Again, I'm thinking, okay, still in the States, Camp Pendleton is not Hawaii or Okinawa, Japan. I'll go there and see how my duty station is. I got put in 1st Battalion, 1st Marine, 4th Battalion, 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, which is the 1st Mardiv. So it's an infantry unit, and that was, I didn't even think about that. I was thinking administration. I was going to be in an office. I was going to doing paperwork. I was going to do. So my duty was headquarters Marine Corps, and I was I check in Marines, and I do their orders for them, and also at the same time I make sure their records are straight as far as being married, unmarried, their payroll is correct, and their ranking is correct, and every time they have orders to leave, may it be a permanent duty station or temporary duty station, those are what I do for them. And I check them back in and make sure that they get compensated for their travel. That was my main duty. But at the same time, being in an infantry unit, you have to train with the infantries, because just in case you get deployed, because you're in a deployable unit. Sure enough, I got deployed twice. So that's how everything kind of started to be, where it's getting more real, to the point to be where my family did not expect all this type of stuff going on. But when I came home, I didn't. Back in the days, we didn't have cell phone to be where we can call and keep up with the news and Facebook and all that. In '95 is when I started. So '96, '98 is when I did my deployments.
What was what exactly was your first deployment? What went on there?
That was in '96. I went to Iraq. Places like Kuwait, Iran, Dubai, Bahrain, Qatar, to name a few. But we went to a lot of the training that we did. And also in '96 we did an operation called Cobra Gold. And Cobra Gold is an operation is if something happened in the Middle East and we have to train with our allies, are we able to accomplish the mission? And we did an operation with Thailand, which is I also speak Thai.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to, my seniors set me up to with the colonels or commanders to be able to translate with the Royal Thai Marines and the U.S. Marine Corps. Are we able to work together to accomplish the mission? So I think I want to say I did good. I did good enough to be able to be posted in the Leatherneck magazine.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And back in '96, September 1996 issue. And the pictures in here is this one, which I'm going to show you a more clear picture of right here.
Okay. So that was the Cobra.
Cobra Gold. Cobra Gold, that's the name of the operation that we did.
So explain in the picture what you were doing. Tell who those people.
So this here is the commander for the Royal Thai Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side over here is the officers, which is more pictures of me translating between Thai Marines. And this was in our ship, by the way. Our ship that I was in during that time was called the USS Tarawa. I was lucky to be in the same ship twice on my deployment to make it easier, because the air carrier is huge. It's like a moving city, so you can get lost in there. But I was lucky to be in the same ship twice. So during that time, after finishing translating, during that time I was a private first class, and I got a certificate of commendation. So once we finished the operation, this picture here is in front of one of the temples, where most of the Royal Thai Marines and most of the U.S. Marines, we took a picture together, and I was in the middle over there, accepting a gift from the Royal Thai Marines given to our commander. So I accepted on the commander's behalf to give to the U.S. commander, pretty much.
Because you were doing the translations.
Because I was doing translation.
Speak Laos or Thai.
Yes,
at the
Thai
time.
at the time. So the language between Thai and Laos is not the same, but almost the same. What I mean by that is the different dialect. The way I can probably make it more simple is that back in the East, Laos is not as modernized, but Thai is. So that if you think about listening to Thai music, Thai movies, the CDs, the tape that came out during that time, Thai had that first, and Laos was able to listen to those music, to those movies. So Laos was able to learn Thai, but the Thai don't have none of those Laos music or movies at that time, that I believe. So the Laos would understand the Thai, and would able probably to good enough to speak it as well. That's how I was able to translate portion of that. But the Thai, it was hard to translate anything from the last portion of it.
So that was you were able to do that because you were. That's great.
Yes.
That was something. Still, did that get you a promotion or? at that time?
It was really hard to get promoted in the Marine Corps, but it got me a certificate of Commendation and meritorious mask, basically certificates that you did a good job, pretty much.
Those are good.
Yep.
Recognition.
That's the start.
Yeah.
Yep.
That wasn't something you were expecting.
Yep.
And then how was life on the ship? How was that? Is it comfortable or?
It was so the first time that I was on the first time I was on a ship, a cruise ship or aircraft carrier. That was the first time, but it was something to get used to. It was a wow factor for me how big it is, how huge it was. But it was definitely an experience, something that, well, I was not trained for in the Marine Corps. So one of the stories I remember how what I mentioned being first alerted to a danger, I guess I you want to call it, to be where we were at sea, and then all of a sudden that's when the first time I'm like, holy crap, it started.
You didn't know what was going to happen.
I didn't know what's going to happen. And when someone says you see your life flash before your eyes, that's the first time I experienced that, because there's nothing I can do. I'm not trained for this. This is a Navy thing. So that was the first time I kind of got scared. I'm like, holy crap. But luckily, I don't know how fast we were going. We were doing Mach something, and then once we got there, I was told that the ship disappeared back into their water. So we just had to stay there for a while until probably another ship came and cover, and then we went back into our training as far as security, back into our own route again.
It was a dry run.
It was a dry run, I guess. Yeah, it's an experience.
I'm glad it wasn't anything serious.
Yes.
What other kind of when you were on the ship? I mean, how long were you out at a time?
Every time we go from one country to another, it's basically, the way I understand is that we're like security throughout the Middle East. One ship would get there and stay there within the area until another ship relieves us. But while we're there, we train. Like I was in Iraq, we trained in the desert for so many months before we get to move to another desert. I remember the first time we got into the desert, and I'm going to tell you the story about how you get cool water.
Which country? Where were you?
I want to say Kuwait. We were in Kuwait at that time. I may be wrong, but it was hot. It was I believe one of the operation that we did was where it was 140 degrees, and this was called Combat Operations Center, Security Team Headquarters, Service Battalion, 1st Battalion, 4th Marine, 13th Marine Expedition, Special Operation Capable, August 9th, 1996. Country of Kuwait. Yep,
Okay.
that's it.
You can hold that up.
So this is the meritorious mask. At that time, that's what we got, I guess, I don't know what we call it, a certificate, but it's a meritorious mask. So we've, a lot of us in the beginning got sick from the heat and drinking from hot water, 140 degrees, so it's not, you don't refrigerate out there, or ice is gonna melt like crazy. So we were left to figure out ourselves, and we were told you can get cold water or cool water, figure it out. So one of us figured it out, and this is how you get cold water, just in case you ever get stuck in the desert for whatever reason. We got one of our socks out, we put our canteen in our socks, and we put water to make the socks wet, so like a wet cloth. Hang it on a string, and we hang on a string and we hang it on our tent that we have, and the hot wind will be blowing. Because the hot wind, any wind blow to a wet cloth, it will cool the cloth, and in turn cool what's inside the cloth, which is our canteen. And then we're able to get cool water. Once that word goes out, it spread like fire. Everybody was getting cool water. That's how it works because we will learn to adapt and survive. We're not given instructions. We have to figure it out ourselves because that's part of the training.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the training. Whether it be hot as hell during the daytime, but it was to be so cold at nighttime because when the sun goes down, the wind was to be blowing because there's nothing blocking it. But then it's not blowing the hot sand; it was blowing the cool because there's no more sun. So that's when we dig a foxhole, and probably you will see probably why in the movies you'll see. That's probably why you will see in the movies soldiers or the Marines or whoever dig foxholes to stay away from the wind.
Yeah. Just wait. I have to just wait. Every now and then it does it.
Training, there was 2 ways for us to get out. We got heloed out
Uh-huh.
and then get dropped off in the desert to train. A sad story was we lost 2 Marines at one point in time. So during training, of course you get friendly fire, but this portion luckily was not friendly fire, but I did experience friendly fire. The helo dropped us off, and when he was getting back to the ship, from what I've heard was the sand got into the motors. And there was 2 Marines in that helo that did not bail. I don't know how they were trained and taught, but they went down with the helo, and 2 of them passed away.
The pilot?
The pilots. So one of my duties while on ship, besides doing my office job, was that we have other duties while we're on ship. One of my duties was on top of the aircraft deck, bringing in special, I don't want to say guests, but other Marines or lieutenant or colonels in and help whatever. And I remember that we have 2 Marines that passed away to be where aircraft was picking them up close to a border that we have stopped by. So we were lining up in line to have the Marines pass through. I remember having my goggles, my hat on because the helo was going on. So as soon as the first Marine came in through, we gave him the salute in honor for.
Did you know the Marines? Were they part of the group?
I do not remember his name specifically, but I do remember that we lost 2 Marines, and it was attached to our battalion at that time when we were training in the 13th expedition.
That your first deployment?
That was my first deployment, yes.
That had to be sobering. I mean,
It
be out at sea
yeah.
and have it. Oh, I'm sorry.
A lot of things happened that I did not expect. Of course, nothing of this type of stuff you expect, and it's not told for you beforehand. Even the training that we did in the desert, to be where there's no road, so there's no road map. You just gotta go by 5 click here, 2 click there. So you just have to follow it, that portion. And when the training goes out, that's how you see stories and how you got ambushed, because they know the terrain, we don't, as we being there. So I do remember in that portion to be where we were supposed to get to the front gate to be where we can get in. We were kind of on the side gate, so they didn't know who we were. Something happened to be where we got fired at because they thought we were not friendlies. We were like enemies. So we got shot at until somebody held ceasefire, and our Humvee was already shot up already. And I can tell you, I remember the story of the football player. I can't remember Pat.
Oh.
Pat.
Oh yeah. Go my tongue yet.
Yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about. He was a famous football player that after 9/11 he says, I'm going to be part of this. So he gets his multi-million-dollar contract to play football. And of course, in the beginning, they said, he got ambushed. But later on, they found out it was friendly fire. So the friendly fire portion is definitely...
Was it from that event? Was it from that time when you all were going around, or you were just saying it as an example?
Yeah, I just gave it as an example. Friendly fires, it is definitely... Being in the desert, it happens. There's no road. You can just be a click off and you might be considered enemy versus friendlies.
Yeah.
But radio communication is very important. I know with him, he lost radio communication because one was higher, one was lower, as far as terrain-wise. So they didn't have, so they just see each other as probably enemy at that time because they have no radio communication.
But you can understand, because you know the conditions, but it's hard for somebody sitting over here in the United States to understand how that can happen.
Is it in your mind? It's like, you're wearing the same uniform. Don't you have radio communication? You should know everybody that. It's like, in an ideal world, yes, it would be nice. But mistakes happen, friendly fires happen, people die. Even just last week, a healer went down, killed, 4 Marines? Training exercise. Yeah. Training caused even injuries, even death. So, but that's part of the job.
Yeah. So I guess you try to avoid it, but
the best we can.
Yeah.
One of probably the things that I also want to say, injuries that happen. When I was in my first duty station, infantry unit, hardcore. Don't cry, don't be a pussy. Oh, you're hurt? No, sir. Continue going forward. I remember going to my first unit, never went to medics. You were kind of looked down upon. If you do, you're a pussy, you're weak, yada yada yada. Infantry unit, hardcore. One of the things I probably want to say to future Marines or Airmen or Air Force, Army, is that if something happens and if you're really injured, you need to go to medics. Because the story is that my second unit that I went to, School of Infantry, SOI, my last year, because I'm leaving the Marine Corps during that time, my EOS, my end of contract is coming up. We were training doing exercise, and I remember we were doing one training where we do a jumping jack one time. And of course my shoulder was injured, so I did one jumping jack, doing like this. My sergeant was looking at, what the hell wrong with you? And all I said was, shoulder sarge, and continue doing one. Is this, get your ass to the medics. I was shocked. He's sending me to the medics. Could not believe it. Went to the medics, and I explained what happened. I got, and all they asked me, what injuries do you have? Shoulders and back. Brought it down, get me through, and start doing some treatment on me. That saved me. For when I went to the VA, my record showed that. That's how, within less than a month or two, I got approved. If I have not gone to the medics, there was no ratings. I have to probably fight to figure out why I was limping, because of my back injuries. Because of the sergeant, because of my second duty station. So what I want to relay is that every duty station is different. But regardless, you have the right to go to medics. Don't think yourself too much in, oh, you're hardcore, you're invincible, this, that, and the other. Because once you get out, if this pain and issues come back to bite you, if you don't have records of that.
It's for the record. That's a good point. That's sharing a good piece of advice for somebody listening.
That's right.
Because you ignored it.
I didn't have that advice. I did not know that. I learned it the hard way, and through by, I don't want to say sheer luck or where my sergeant get your ass to medics type of thing. I'm like, okay, Sarge, I just walked myself there. I almost my shoulder at that time, but I also had back injuries. That was when I was limping because of my back injuries. But when I went to medics, they just said, tell me everything right now. And of course, medics was and he says, oh, so you've been here close to 4 years, and this is your first time at medics? I said, yes, this is my first time, and that was my only time. I went to medics.
Wow, you might have been able to
Yeah,
get better for some things that probably.
Well, the thing is you're correct. I mean, I had other injuries like knees injury and elbow injury because of all the training that we did. I remember when we did one training called the rush. We rush a hill, attack a hill. Camp Pendleton, California is a rocky mountain, a lot of hills and rocks. So attacking the hill is one of the things. I'm up, they see me, I'm down. So you rush. I'm up, you run. In your mind, they see me, I'm down. So when you go down on your knees, and then your elbows. My knees hit a rock that was like square, like almost like a triangle. And I felt the pain. I'm like, oh God. And of course, you do your prone once you're down. Again, rush. I'm up. They see me, I'm down. You continue to do that attacking the hill. That's part of your training. Limping up the hill, coming down. I was bandaging my knees and my elbows because you do so much. Because your hand goes down, then your knees, then your elbows, and then you continue doing prone. You continuously doing that because you're attacking the hill. So I remember there was pain, but of course that's one of the things that I forgot to tell them about. But it is what it is.
Is there during those 4 years, was there a high point? Is there anything that stands out to you?
Well, unexpectedly, me coming on from a person that just a regular average Joe, being able to train other Marines how to shoot was one of my highlights that I did not expect. I was not expecting to train other Marines to do anything because I was seeing myself as just an average Marine. But I qualified expert twice as a rifle, and my unit during that time was short on coach at the range. So my record came up as a double expert and a rifle, but to train other Marines, I had to go to, what they call that? Let me see. A marksmanship coach course. So I got sent out of my office and actually I almost like did my own paperwork as far as temporary duty station. So I went to marksman coach because I need to qualify for a pistol to be able to train other Marines how to shoot. So when I went to the course, I came out with a certificate, and I got expert also in a pistol. So that had me being able to train other Marines how to shoot. I was proud of that because I not only had my primary MOS but also a secondary MOS, and the certificate here says qualified to train accordance with the division 3537.5F and date of 97 August 8, and expiration date is indefinite.
Oh, wow.
Range card.
Had you handled guns before?
No, going into the Marine Corps, I have not gun or rifles or pistols or anything. What I was told by my instructors at that time is that that's the people that he wants, that he loves to train, because we don't bring in our bad habits. So he's saying he's able to download everything brand new to a clean slate. All I have to do is follow his instructions, which I did. Which is kind of a good thing that if you haven't shot a gun before, you can go to an instructor and learn perfectly. And he preferred those, is what he says, versus a person that may have their own ways. It could be bad habits, but he would not because he would shoot their own ways. But if they can shoot, he's saying great. But if you don't and you still bring the bad habits, it's really hard for them to teach.
Did you always have to carry a weapon when you were deployed?
When we were deployed, not only did we have to, when I was in the desert, yes, we always have to have our M16. Not only that, we have to have our gas mask on because of biological warfare. During that time, I remember anthrax was a huge deal. I remember we had to get shots after shots just to make sure that we are able to sustain certain, I guess, chemical, if not biological warfare, and our masks to be with us. With the Marine Corps, everything is very strict. If you don't have certain of your items with you, yeah, you get thrashed.
So even in the whole 4 years, though, you didn't have to engage.
I was very fortunate. I was very lucky that I did not have to shoot my weapon once. Only in qualification, only training, but as far as against the enemy, I did not have to.
Did it, with like you said, until you went into the Marines, you hadn't traveled like outside and gone to so many different countries.
Correct.
How did that influence you, or being away looking back at the U.S., or what kind of impact did that make on you? Do you feel just that time in the Marines, seeing all those different places and?
So there's a good and bad as far as traveling wise with the Marine Corps. Of course, you have your training. It's part of the requirement. You have to train with the Marine Corps just in case, like how we train in Camp Pendleton, because just in case you get deployed, you be ready. So you have to train in the desert just in case you have to go fight in Iraq, or later on, like what really happened in 9/11, you have to go to Afghanistan. So if I would have read up, I would have been in Afghanistan. But the plus side is that you do get to travel. So when you get to different ports, what we have liberties. I was very fortunate. I was able to go back to Thailand twice. I want to say for free. Hawaii, beautiful, beautiful island, again for free. I was able to go to Singapore, the Philippines, Malaysia, even Africa, and Hong Kong. There are probably other countries that are around the Middle East that I might have. Dubai is also beautiful now. It wasn't as beautiful at that time, but they have grown so much. They have places in Qatar that was we have liberty to see, where it was in that movie Indiana Jones, that Tomb of Doom or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fun. Those are non-military type.
Yes. You definitely
perks.
get to travel if you get being in an infantry unit, you have the good and the bad.
Yeah.
But I remember we were at sea at one point in time so long. I understand that to get our head still in a good mental state, that we gonna go crazy out of our mind, they cleared the flight deck. They put all the helos and the aircraft in the belly on another level. We had a barbecue.
Oh.
We had a barbecue. We had football being thrown, frisbee being thrown. I guess they were prepared for that long day or weeks, whatever, at ship. We had beer. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I was alcohol, but not hot liquor. It was just beer, as far as I understand. So
You showed up on deck.
it was showed up that surprise. I'm like, okay, that's not in the cafeteria or the chow hall before. But yeah, I was surprised. But I think they were prepared for that portion to be where it was a Liberty Day at sea.
That was just so recreation was for your mental health.
Mental health.
To kind of release some.
Yes.
And play.
And play. Everybody was out there.
To play.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of us was cleared. We were doing a run around the ship because we're still trying to stay healthy. Exercise was huge. The gym was always packed. If we want to run, we have to go run on the flight deck only a certain time. Flight coming in, coming out, going at that time. So when it was out cleared, we took our chance and opportunity, not just to have fun and enjoy, but also do a run that we want to. Even though still while training, I remember there was lines of us shooting out in the ocean at targets. Still part of training at sea. It was to me there was never really a dull day. We were always doing something. It's good because it kept us training and also keep us from being bored out of our mind at sea.
Did you see marine?
I see dolphins.
Oh.
I remember seeing dolphins, but
Okay.
as far as anything else, I don't remember seeing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was yeah. And what about communication? Did you communicate with your family, or was there any one person that stayed in touch with you, or what?
I remember back in the days. Again, we didn't have cell phones and too much as far as computer. Luckily for me, I was an admin. So I was always in front of a computer. I had emails. We had emails during that time. Was it emails? Yeah, it was emails at that time. So I was lucky to be able to keep in touch with family members or friend that was into computers. I know my mother and father, they don't do computers, but my brothers, they have.
And did you keep up with news from the States, or was it more, were you limited that way to just what you were doing during your service?
So I can only speak for my branch, or my unit as well. We are very limited from the outside noise, political wise or anything. So news wise, political wise, anything wise from outside, no. On base. With that being said, we have our liberties on our weekends or on holidays, which we can go out of our base and do whatever we want. I don't even, because it was kind of ingrained for us, not listening to those anyway. We report and answer to our commanding officers or higher ranking than us. So I want to say, as far as my unit and my branch wise, the training is really good to just do as we were told.
Okay.
And without questions. But also with that being said, when I got out of Marine Corps, I had a little situation as far as trying to adjust to the civilian life because of that discipline and strictness.
So when did you get out? What was that? Did you re-enlist, or what happened with that?
I almost re-enlist. I was a corporal at that time, and I know how hard it is to get promoted. So my officer, sergeant, at that time was saying that if you re-enlist, you get promoted. Just do 2 more. So in my mind, it's like 2 more. Why not? So I almost re-enlisted because I was there already. I got my PFT score. I got all my education. I got all my points that I needed. But during that time, what I was told, the reason why, even though I ranked my sergeant, there was too many sergeants already, and I can't be promoted until another sergeant leave. But he said within 2 years, fine, no problem, as long as you read. So I almost did. So when I told my brother that I contacted on a regular basis that I'm going to re-enlist for 2 more years, he says, wait, don't do anything yet. I need to talk to you. I said, what's going on? He says, I'll fly over to go see you. I said, why can't you just tell me over the phone? So he flew to see me because I said, okay, I'll wait. He said, I had to tell you something face to face. He's saying that every time I get sent overseas, every time I do my deployments, our grandmother which is a lot well respected in the family, she would go to the temple and stay at the temple until I returned stateside. That broke my heart. It's
Oh, wow.
she's of course she's elderly already, and he's saying that's not fair to her and to the rest of the family for her to be in the temple until you return for a year.
Wow.
That made me realize I did not know that.
Nobody told you
Nobody
that
told
she
me.
was doing that.
What they said was that they didn't want to tell her a lot of things about me because she's gonna worry what she does. She always worried about her kids or grandkids. So I was a grandson, and I was at that moment in time the only person in the military within our family. Not only that, but I got deployed, and that worried her.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say a lot of things that happened to me overseas. Looking back, I was protected in so many ways.
Wow.
I could have got hurt, injured in more training. I remember one time I almost lost my eye yanking on a wire winding up. I yanked it so hard because it was not coming in, and it got loose, and that one plug from the end tip flew and hit my left eye. Luckily, I had my glasses. Guess who brought me the glasses? My grandmother.
Wow. What did you call what do you call your grandmother? Because your grandmother's still alive.
She's still alive.
What do you call her?
Ya. Ya for us is grandmother in Thai or Lao. It's the same way.
Do you want to say,
Yeah.
just for the record, you want to say in your grandmom's language, just say thank you to your grandmom?
Of our grandparents, because through thick and thin, through refugee camp, all the way to the U.S., different states, with their prayers, their guidance,
That's
their
beautiful.
love, their support, it's unconditional. No matter how much as young and stupid probably and mistakes that we made, they're always there to support us.
Yeah.
And life lessons, I learned so much from them. Young, I did not grasp. I did not, probably should have listened more of the wisdom that they try to convey to their young ones, their son, their granddaughters, everyone. Looking back at this, it's like so much wisdom. My grandfather passed away, but my grandmother's still alive. So I guess to all the others, that the young ones that think that they know more or thinking that they know best, find out or look at them and ask them all the things they've gone through. They experience a lot.
You said your grandfather had been in World War II.
My grandfather has been in World War II.
And then your grandparents, just because I know this from earlier talking with you, they were impacted by the Vietnam War because
Yes.
of what was going on in Laos.
Correct.
And your father in the secret army, and then they ended up having, because they supported the
The Americans,
resistance
yeah,
and the South Vietnamese, that they ended up having to be in refugee camps in Thailand, right?
correct.
Until they were able
To be transferred out, deported out, is definitely was a chaos moment. A lot of us, myself and my aunt, my family, my brother, sister, mom and dad. I'm sorry, not my sister. My two brothers, my mom and dad, and the rest of the family came straight to the United States. Myself and one of my aunt was in France. So, like I say, it was chaos. But I understand and don't understand. But there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of chaos. People, if you can just say things happen here in, like for example, in Iraq, refugees going everywhere at a moment's notice. It was just like that. When the Shanghai collapsed, everybody was we would thought it would be okay to stay, but then communists came, take over, and everything was a mess. So, but luckily, I was able to, after 2 years separation, I was able to reunite with my family here in the United States.
So you all, it sounds like you have a really big, close family with your, I mean, grandparents were
Oh, yes.
very strong, keeping you together, and
Yes.
then a lot of you now live in Georgia.
Georgia, correct.
You get together.
We get together, yes. Once we get together, it's a huge moment for us because it not only we're happy, you can see the happiness in our grandparents to see their child, their grandchild, their great grandchild. So they are also blessed because I believe with all they're given, we know it's our duty, obligation, and a privilege to give back.
Well, you all seem to be doing that, and I know they're very proud of you.
Yeah.
So I thank you for doing this, and I didn't know if you want to mention, because you said you were just to what you're doing now. How did you what have you done since, or for this, or what are you doing now? Yeah, you and
Okay.
your family. If you want to just mention what you're doing now, because it is related
Yeah.
to your
Okay.
to your background.
Okay.
So for the record here, because
So, besides having a business as far as a restaurant business since 2006, Wild Ginger, which is here in Chamblee, Georgia, we started a nonprofit organization also to help other veterans, including the idea came from my dad to help other veterans that need help, that does not have enough help or being supported either by the VA or the government or wherever else. So our organization help all veterans that's in need. Why we mean by all veterans? So looking back when my dad and I was looking at when we were fighting with our enemies at that point in time, my dad was fighting the Vietnam War, other Viet Congs, other communists. I learned from him that he also goes to the Vietnam New Year and part of their celebration for their for their New Year, because they put their past aside.
Oh.
Okay. From what I've seen and read, most, I don't want to say all, because you will still have people that held grudge. But please understand this. Our duty and job was that time was to protect our brothers, our sisters, left or the right of us, because we have to fight another enemy. But the other person is doing the same thing. So one that I read somewhere, and it hit me, and I understand that portion. You are willing to give your life for your country, as I'm willing to give my life for my country. That's the respect we have for each other. So now that the war is over, let's respect each other the same way. So that's why my father says, all veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put the war is never something anybody asks for. It's a tragic part of life, what's happening in Ukraine right now, but hopefully when all that passes away, we can come together and help mentally. Even with 22 vets committing suicide a day is a sad situation already. Let's not focus on hating each other, but more on helping each other in that portion. So when we came up with this, one of my missions my dad has right now is, as you know, at least providing comfort for the Vietnam veterans that have not been recognized to the point to be where they just got left behind, forgotten veterans that serve and help soldiers. Life maybe at some point in time because they supported as an ally to the United States in the Civil War. So one of the things that we wanted to help is at least whatever donation money right now, we're able to help with the burial expenses. But also not only that, there's many Vietnam veterans that passed away. Their urns is being kept at the temple. But the family and most of the Vietnam in my dad's platoon, brigade, squad requested to put in the military cemetery where they belong.
Mm-hmm.
As a respect to them, the minimum, at least doing that, because of the sacrifice that they made,
Mm-hmm.
helping as an ally to the United States.
Because that changed their lives, what they gave, and they're here.
Yes.
So, and it sounds like your father and you have dedicated, you're doing so much turning around for other vets and for fellow Laos that for the recognition, and continue to do that because you can't even go back to your own mother country.
Correct.
It's
Right.
you've everything they did during the Vietnam War has resulted in them. I mean, they're here in the U.S. and everybody, and you're a very good example of what has made our country a better place because of people like your grandparents and your father and these people that and your dad's continuing involvement and support of veterans. So it's wonderful and it's important because this isn't something we hear a lot. That's so I think it's you be serving in the U.S. Marine Corps. It's easy to understand or respect. It is highly regarded. Definitely, it's a few. It's definitely unique, and but I have no doubt that the way you've been brought up, your whole family, has made you who you are, and going from never carrying a gun to being able to turn around and have just excelling at everything that you do. So I appreciate you doing what you've done and your beautiful family. So is there anything that you'd like to say to wrap up, just or mention? In fact, let's do mention, because I have met your family, but if you could just names of so you're now married and
Yes.
your kids, and can you give names?
Yes. My wife, Rachini Wan, goes by Janet Athahkanh. My daughter, Gina Athahkanh. She is currently going to Mercer University right now. And my son, Arthur Athahkanh, he's going to be a freshman in high school next year. And talking to him, he's looking into also in the military as well. So maybe he might continue the tradition from my grandfather, father, to myself, and then my son, and whether it be 4 generations.
Yeah, wow. Mm-hmm.
4 generations within my family line.
I'll have to continue that. Well, that's great. But it's been really, really interesting, and I'm sure your family will enjoy listening, and I will be continuing because, again, we've interviewed your father for the Veterans History Project, and next Saturday, I'm going to meet some more friends, and like I told you, this is not a final. The Veterans History Project, it's going to be around forever, and we can add to this, but right now, we'll wrap up, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
For the honor of being here with you and your family, and thank you so much for your service as well.
Thank you for what you do, Susan.
Appreciate it. All right.
Appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.